So I'd like to start off by saying welcome to the first ever JaduDev user group. Now the intention is that Jadu will facilitate and organise and structure, but this is really a forum for you guys to discuss. See if my computer is working. For those of you who are involved in organising the call today, we did create a basic agenda which we will iterate over each meeting, and that was shared as a Google Doc to you guys. Just to quickly run through what we're going to do, I think just so everyone can meet each other, we'll have some introductions. It'd be great to talk about what you're making right now, or any plans that you have from sort of any custom devs that you're working on, or any projects or initiatives that you have starting, or any plans that you want to have. It'd be great to share some of that and see where others maybe have also achieved some of these things, and maybe we can help, or we can work together on things. So I guess that would be a good start. We're then going to sort of talk about some stuff that John Wheat has done, which has kind of led us here really, the JaduDev website, and we're going to have a quick look at that. And then we're going to have a quick chat about how we're going to start sharing and collaborating on code. We'll talk very briefly about the App Store, the marketplace, and what opportunities there are for colleges to share and commercialize any code. We also want to take through some very high level, the special work that has been done at Dickinson, because I think this will really resonate with challenges that many of you have already. We'll take you through some practical examples. We've done some recent integration with Perceptive's document management system, and Andy and John are going to talk to you about how we achieved that. And I think it's less about the actual technology and more about how we achieved it that is probably the real value there. We're going to talk a little bit about Banner very briefly, and Andy's shot a video that he's going to just kind of step through and talk through, hopefully if there's not too much lag on the call. And then we'll sort of wrap up and we'll talk about the next meeting, the frequency of the meetings. At the moment we're thinking maybe quarterly, but you guys might have other ideas. So I thought we'd start with some introductions. I'll just fold out the GoToMeeting, so hopefully you can see that as well. Maybe not. So just in the room with me, I'm Suraj, I'm Jadu's CEO and founder. To my right is...
So I've got Andy Perkins, Jadu Fellow, one of the original developers of the software.
Hopefully you all know Andy. And we have...
Helen Shaw, I'm engineer at Jadu, and I work with Andy on the customer solutions team.
And we have Rich.
Hello, I'm Richard Backhouse. I'm also a Jadu Fellow and also work in customer solutions with Helen and Andy.
Hi, I'm Adoni Pavlakis. I worked, I'm a Jadu engineer, and I work in Stellar, which is core development, doing bi-weekly releases on the CMS.
So just to quickly explain, Jadu has a number of agile teams. Each agile team looks after a product, and the Stellar team look after the CMS and, at the moment, XFP products.
Yes, that's right.
Any other Jadu engineers, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and just quickly introducing yourself, please? Let's start with Sarah.
Sarah Backhouse. I'm, I guess, the lead on the CMS project, the product owner of CMS and Scrum Master for the Stellar team.
We've got Luke on the call as well.
I'm Luke. I'm one of the Jadu support engineers, so I primarily respond to tickets and work on front-end fixes.
And we have James on the call. James is currently muted. Let me just unmute James. Say hello, James.
Hi, I'm James. I'm an engineer and I work with Adoni and Sarah.
Cool.
We sort of CMS.
And of course we have, last but not least, we have John Houston. Do you want to say hi, John?
Yes, hello everybody. Sorry, I was saying hello and realized I had muted myself so you didn't get any background noise. Yeah, hi everybody. Just wanted to say, I'm excited to get some conversations started and also that we were able to pull in some some good resources from the engineering and development team. That's great. So, hello everybody.
I'm here as well, Siraj. Don't forget me.
Dave Irvine. Dave, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Irvine, and I am a sysadmin here at Jadu.
So we have a number of Jadu people. Charles, you're first in the list. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Charles Sanson. I'm the director of Internet Services at Fordham University. Let's see. I've met John Wheat before, back in the Luminous days, and we're rolling out the Jadu site pretty much as we speak. Soft go live is this coming week, and the production go live is December 4th.
Thanks, Charles. Ethan, you're next in the list. Would you like to just quickly say a few words?
Yeah, Ethan Hoyt from Butler Community College. I'm in web services, and we just recently rolled out our production website for Butler.
Thanks, Ethan. John, you're next in the list. I think maybe John either can't speak or is offline by the look of it. So we'll just quickly move over to Tom Irwin.
Yeah, good morning. Tom Irwin, CIO at Butler Community College. And yeah, Ethan, as he said, we launched our production CMS and web forms on November 5th.
Thanks, Tom. And David. David Kelly, can you hear us? Well, hopefully David can hear us. But
Are you there, Siraj? Can you hear us?
we can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, that's odd, but okay. David Kelly from Dickinson College. I'm here with Sarah Burkett and Mike Nacco, our team who deals with Jadu, all things Jadu. I'm a custom developer, and Sarah's our project manager, and Mike is our system admin / DBA / developer. We went live with Jadu for our production site in February, and we went live with our portal in Jadu in June.
Great, thanks, David. And I think we have Jeremy Nelson just joining us from Wayne State. Can you hear us, Jeremy? Sounds like Jeremy is still joining the call. So just to quickly introduce Jeremy, so we can get started. Jeremy is one of the developers at Wayne State College, who are currently mid-implementation of Jadu also.
Siraj, this is Tom. We also have Andy Jakes. Andy, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Andy Jakes. I'm the Director of Web Services with Butler Community College.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Good.
So let's just give one more check. Jeremy from Wayne State, can you hear us? I think Jeremy's having issues with the phone number by the look of things. Hey, John, I wonder if you can just maybe help. That's it. Thank you. Okay, so guys, hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully everyone can hear me. The format of today is really discussion. So it's all about talking to each other. So if you want to mute or unmute as you feel appropriate, please do. Feedback, discuss any of the ideas or concepts that we talk about today. It's really all about discussion. So if I can get my slides back. I think firstly is a bit of a sigh of relief that we can at last start talking about building our community of developers and starting to share code. And I think this first session is really a discussion because it's a first kickoff. We really just want to get everyone introduced, start putting a few ideas on the table for us to talk about, but also start looking at some actual case studies of things that we do. We'll talk about frequency and how often we should have these sessions. We're kind of thinking every 3 months, but if you guys have got other ideas, then we'd love to hear those. We'd like to help organise and structure, but we really do just want to get out the way. I met Tom and, sorry, just turning the light out. I met Tom at EduCore's conference in Orlando about a month and a half ago, and also John Dunning from Wayne State. And one of the requests was, could we start facilitating these conversations and then let everyone kind of take over the conversation. That's what we're really trying to do here. So our objectives from today really are to meet each other, to discuss ideas around Portal, and this was kind of top of, I guess, most institutions' agenda. We want to establish some code sharing channels, so you guys can start swapping technology and ideas, along with our engineers as well. We're very keen to be part of that conversation. We want to share the accumulated expertise that we've kind of amassed here in engineering, and share that with you guys too. So a real opening up and sharing community is what we want to build. So today we really just want to talk. Hopefully it's not just me talking for the next 2 hours, or Andy. We're really interested in what you guys have to say and what your challenges are. Just as a kind of digression, just to point out, there is the Labs Google Plus page where Jadu engineers share proofs of concept. We have very early demos of new software that is going into the now 2 weekly or fortnightly, if you're in the UK, releases of Jadu. We're currently on our release 38, which was released last week, and I guess 39 will be next week, but I'm sure, or soon anyway. And I'm sure Sarah will let me know if I'm mistaken there. But the Labs website is a place where we can not just share demos and proofs of concepts, but also conversation. And we're really keen for you guys to show us your stuff, things that you develop or ideas that you have, practical things, either in the user interface or stuff that you've developed yourselves on this forum as well. So posting videos and making comments is kind of what we set up this Labs community page for. So first question really to you guys, and maybe we could start with you, John, because I think sort of out of all of us, you may have done the most. What have you made? What are you making right now? And what do you have coming up?
Okay, so I'm sorry about the connection. It keeps cutting in and out. I'm John Wheat from Messiah College, and we went live with Jadu 2 years ago. Different things to sort of make it a little more tailored to our college. Probably the neatest thing we're working on right now is a web audit functionality, so we can add a report to see.
Yeah, sounds like we're stuck with your poor connection there. David, do you want to quickly jump in? Sounds like we've lost John.
Here, Siraj. We had a momentary lapse here. I'm glad you put video up of the meth lab we've been building. We're using Jadu to market this, and it's working out really well for us. You know, we had extra space in the basement, so we had nothing better to do with it. On a more serious note, yeah, we're actually very close to Messiah, so we have a lot of cooperative work that we do together. But on a more serious note, we've actually built quite a few things in Jadu in the course of trying to get both our website and our portal active. Jadu built out the original code for us to make a portal work in order to make role-based display of content work for us. Andy was very good to whip up a sample widget that allows us to do that in home pages, but we've taken that since and used that model to build several other types of widgets that we can use within the portal framework. We've also built widgets that we use throughout the public site for consumption and display of, say, various XML data, different types of content, news, and customized announcements, just different ways of displaying some of the content that's already in Jadu that was more to the needs of our web development team. As far as what we're doing right now, we went live with the portal, like I said, in August, early August. So we've kind of just been sitting on it and letting it ride for a term to see how everything works out before we do much more with that. Probably our next big move in that area will be to build out an area for alumni, but we're not really sure what our advancement team has in store for that yet. We're also just went live with XFP, the forms, and we've started working with that. Mike has built actually access control around the forms so that we can start using those in logged in content, so role-based context. And we've entered into discussions with Jadu for expanding the interactions with Knowledge Web and some of our document management. And I can talk more about that later, but that's if anybody's interested.
This is Charles Sampson. I was interested in finding out how big Dickinson is. I'm interested in everything you guys are doing. I'm just worried about how it scales.
We have 2,500 students, more or less. Probably 300 to 400 faculty, small meth lab. Other than that, rural Pennsylvania, just southwest of Harrisburg. We have no graduate programs. We have about 25,000 alumni who will get pushed into the system. Right now, the portal has gone through one round of class adjustments, so drop add. We'll be going through some more heavy-hitting times like course enrollment for the fall and stuff that will test our servers. So far, the only thing that we've done since putting Jadu in with the original base configuration is we tripled the memory on the server. We discovered that needed to be bumped up significantly, but we're on a single server configuration, one single production server with one development server. We don't have it clustered. That's just kind of the way our server team handles a lot of stuff here because we're not a very large institution.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think just to echo what David is saying, the original implementation for Dickinson was the website. It then moved over to Portal and has now replaced Luminous. And that's all being run from a single server environment, as David says. The interesting thing is that the work they've done to enable Jadu as the portal is embryonic but extremely powerful. And it will be different for every institution because you have different back office systems wired in. And I suppose the theme of this discussion today is really to kind of center on that and how we can turn it from something that's embryonic into something that's actually a mature approach as well. So can I ask the question again? Is anyone else making anything, has made anything, or has anything coming up?
Raj, this is Tom. So again, we're just focused right now on live with CMS and forms, and still working some kinks out there. We are getting ready to go into a portal discovery phase. We're Luminous portal and so looking at how we can collapse these environments. So I think we're at the front end of those discussions, and also very interested in where we might be able to attach our BDMS to the X forms and push those things through as well. And I think the other piece of that is looking at what our mobility posture is going to be and how we strengthen that.
Okay, so I mean, one of the important points that you mentioned there was the integration of BDMS. BDMS is the Banner Document Management System. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yep. And hopefully some of the practical stuff that we show you today on Perceptive might shape some of the thinking there. But I know well aware that you guys are starting to think about Portal Next. And I think John Wheat, if John is still with us, I know you guys at Messiah are very keen to immediately press ahead with replacing the portal.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Jeremy, I don't know if you can hear us. I know you guys have written or made a few widgets. Is anything you want to talk about?
I can also add some background and context for the rest of the group who may not have talked or spoken at all with Wayne State, but Wayne State College issued an RFP, oh gosh, going back probably 18 months ago when they issued it, and then selected Jadu because part of their RFP was not just a replacement for the web content management system on campus, but really kind of a revamp of the entire web estate. They had a homegrown or legacy system that was powering their student portal that they called eCampus, and so part of their initial plans with procuring Jadu was not just the CMS, but was they purchased Jadu CMS with the expressed plan of phase 2 being a rollover after they got the CMS up, a rollover and a collapse of the eCampus portal into the Jadu platform, so that they had kind of one product maintaining the entire web estate there.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah, I think I got a busted mic on my headset is what's going on.
Oh no.
Interesting.
Interesting. Hard to diagnose that. Well, I'll let you pick up and take over.
Okay. Well, yeah, like John was saying, we're kind of replacing our entire setup with Jadu. We're going to go kind of full bore and replace our portal next fall, hopefully to go live there. We're going to go live at the end of April with our regular, what we call our marketing web estate. And then we'll kind of link the two together so that hopefully when you're logged into the portal, it kind of follows you throughout the website as you visit different pages. Some of the stuff we've done, we developed a news center that actually allows our director of college relations to, upload all kinds of different news items and things like that, and then link off to our other Wildcat, which is our mascot. They've got their own .com, so they can do advertising and things like that for athletics. And we pull data back from their RSS feed and display that on the page. And do some other things. We're doing a social networking wall that will pull back data from our Facebook and our Twitter and our Instagram and YouTube channels and all that, and pull it back and display it on a big screen so you can see all the different social media outlets that Wayne State's involved in. And we built we put together a way to link two different directories together based on their categories, so that we have a directory full of our majors in it, and we have a directory full of our courses in it. And using the category structure in the courses directory, we link those category IDs to the major in the major directory, so that when you go and visit a major, it actually goes back and pulls back all of the courses from the course directory and displays all the courses you would then need to take within a major on a single homepage. And that allows us to put in a ton of other data for the major in that page, and then also pull back. That way we can kind of use the directories for different things if we need to, but keep them linked together and be able to show a student when they come and visit us and say, I want to go look at, business administration. What do I need to take? It's all there on one page for them. But what we're really excited about is getting into the portal discussion and talking about, how do we do authentication, because we've got, LDAP servers behind that we're going to have all our user accounts. We don't want to necessarily import 4,000 users into Jadu. We'd like to, keep our authentication system separate from that and leave the user accounts in Jadu as just the core publishers for the system. But that's kind of where we're headed.
Thanks, Jeremy. I mean, that's really interesting. So a lot of that information is new for me. I know John Houston will know a lot of that background and others here too, but you know, we should really give awards for innovative use of directories, because it has started to become, if not as powerful, then maybe even more powerful than the homepages interface that we have in Jadu. The directories have been used in so many different ways by our users. It always surprises us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that feature you've built there, Jeremy, because that sounds really neat and maybe something we should film a case study on.
Yeah, that would be. And if you could if we could get a little more elaborate with the categorization within a directory, it would allow us to do a few more flexible things that I'd really be interested in.
Oh, that's good feedback. And I know there are a couple of CMS team members here. The CMS team is called Stella. Sarah Backhouse leads that team, but we also have a couple of other team members listening in. So any comments like that, really useful, and it goes straight to the source of the people who make the software. So
Good
interesting.
deal.
Yeah, we'll have a maybe an email conversation about that, Jeremy.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm glad we got to hear your story. Is there any others? Anyone else want to mention anything?
This is Charles Sanson at Fordham University. Like I said, we're still going live with just a public website, but I've been tasked with very rapidly rolling out an intranet based on Jadu, and we have Luminous 4. We've used Luminous 4 extensively. We will be rolling out Luminous 5.2 for certain things, but I think we're going to have Luminous 5.2, which is CAS-based for the authentication, and we will move a lot of the authenticated support pages for things like HR, things that have documents and forms, over into the intranet. So I of course heard JaduDev, which I reminded me of the LoomDev, so I found that site. Thank you, John. And I see you've got an entry there on an intranet with Jadu. That's going to be my starting point.
Oh, that's interesting to know, Charles. I mean, there are lots of different ways of doing that. I really love the way Dickinson. By the way, I'm going to get really boring, and I'm going to keep talking about what Dickinson had done because it's so life-changing. But I mean, I do believe that staff can log into the same website as students and see staff-related content. Am I right, David?
Yes, that's correct, Siraj. And when we get to that point, if we can share my screen, I can be happy to just kind of log in and show people as I describe it.
Yeah, that would.
When we get to that point, I'm happy to do that so they have a better idea of what we're trying to do here.
That would be awesome. Great. So without further ado, then I'll move on.
Well, Siraj, I might make a quick comment too. Just, I think, you know, a lot of the conversations that are going right now about Portal is really what has pushed us in trying to get this call scheduled now rather than letting any more time pass. Because I mean, this is something that we've wanted to get moving for some time, but I think it's important that a lot of the folks that are on the call today, a lot of our customers are all having the same conversations, and those conversations are being had with us. And we just thought it was really important to open up a venue that you're not only talking with us about it, but lots of people use the same back office systems, and even if you're not using the same back office systems, forgetting about whether you're using Banner or PeopleSoft or another student information system, the functionality that people are trying to deliver to the website is all stuff that I think we can collaborate and share upon, and how that functionality is integrated with different back office systems can be a conversation that could be had maybe more directly with us or with another customer that uses the same back office system. But we just didn't want any more time to pass because everyone's having a lot of these exact same conversations, and I think there's power in numbers. And then also, you know, with what we're going to move on to next, the website that John Weeds put up for folks to collaborate with each other on, we just thought this was a more important time than any other in the past to get everybody together. So hopefully this is helpful, and there's some good conversations that come away from it.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what John said. I mean, John Wheat has created, off his own steam, this fantastic developer network website. Many of our engineers are now signed up, and we're going to start contributing here too. So I would imagine this becomes the international center for Jadu developers to be able to discuss, share openly. And we'll cover off some of the things here. But the URL is JaduDev.net. You do need to get a code issued from John Wheat. But that's all sort of fairly well documented in the setup process and the registration process. It would be great if all of you guys signed up to this community, because we intend to get 100% behind John and building this, John Wheat, and behind building this developer network as well. And one of our, John, so you know, one of our designers has expressed an interest in helping you out as well. We've got some really neat styling techniques we can apply to this to help you out, sort of building different sections of this site out. That kind of takes me to my sort of next thing is earlier today, well, a few days ago, one of our developers who's not on the call today, James Deeth, made his first post, and his first engineer. He won himself a bottle of my favourite beer. So I am bribing the engineers as well as actively encouraging them to participate, and I'm really glad to see so many engineers from Jadu signing up. We are 100% behind you guys and want to encourage that free sharing of knowledge, expertise and code right across, well, across the world. It just so happens that all of you guys happen to be centered in the US at the moment. We will be encouraging. We have a user conference in Birmingham, which is kind of I don't know, 40 miles west of our offices, and we'll be starting to actively promote this community to all the developers in the UK as well. So I think John really nicely coined a phrase in the description of the About section of the JaduDev website. It's the home base for an international Jadu users group. It's to connect, regardless of geography, it's to connect all the smart people together so you can build together. And I'm willing to bet that most of your challenges are common, and either you guys can solve them, or we can solve them, or we can also solve them together. So without further ado, I want to... am I sticking to agenda, Andy?
There's just one thing that you...
There is one more thing.
Regarding GitHub.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask a question to some of our users on the call. We would really, as well as the JaduDev site, which John has very kindly sunk many hours into building, I would really like somebody who isn't Jadu to start a JaduDev GitHub so we can actually have a source code repository. So, volunteers?
This is Ethan from Butler.
Yep.
And I'd be happy to do that.
Great. So, first action of the day is, Ethan, you very kindly offered to spend some time registering a GitHub, and if you could let us all know, that would be great. And the place to post up the location, the URL, and so forth is on the JaduDev website.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Does it make sense to pull the audience on, you know, who's currently using GitHub for anything, and whether or not there's an offline conversation that anyone wants to have about where they need to go? That probably can all be done through the forum on the developer network site, but you know, raise a hand if you haven't used GitHub and want any type of tutorial on what you might need to do once that starts going too.
John, this is Dickinson. What we'd really like to see is for Jadu to have a GitHub type repository where we could commit changes to your version of our code, so that when we patch, we're not constantly having to look to see which customizations we've put in place and look at how that's going to be affected by patches. That's what we'd really like to see.
Okay, so hopefully John Houston is busily taking notes, but second order of the day is Rich will own that, and you will hear from us soon.
It sounds too, and Rich, if I start talking too much gobbledygook that doesn't make sense, to step in. But it sounds like we're probably talking about two different things. So a GitHub repository, one for the developer network, and this would allow sharing of code amongst customers. So, for instance, if Jeremy Nelson's widget for combining directories is something that another institution sees a similar use case for. They can download that code if Jeremy wants to put it in GitHub, maybe make some slight changes to it, and then deploy it within their own site. And then two, as David Kelly has mentioned, a connection from each customer to our engineers for patching and things like that. So did I hear that correctly, that we probably still want a separate GitHub repository for a developer network where people can share code, but then something that's more closely tied to support for each customer when you go through patches and upgrades, right?
Yes, that's correct. This is David. Yes, that's correct, John. And actually, we are far more anxious to have the connection to the Jadu developers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I guess the two complement each other in terms of, if I guess we have to decide if the one that connects the use of the Jadu developers, so we have this shared code base, we need to decide if that's public or private, but potentially that's something that's public and can also promote sharing of front-end code and ideas between everybody.
Yeah, and I know we've talked internally as well that the developer network GitHub is something that you know, if every customer has all gone out and downloaded somebody's code because everybody saw an equal benefit of them having that, then that's something that our engineers just need to stay engaged on, and we need to stay engaged on, because there's obviously some ideas that we can pull from that just maybe need to become part of core, and so that will help us stay in tune with you know, features and functionality that people are not only asking for but using already, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, the JaduDev GitHub really is for the open, transparent sharing of code between developers for widgets that you make or components that you build or anything like that. But absolutely, we'll take that back, David, and make sure that we just find a neat solution to making it happen.
Thank you.
Hopefully everyone is comfortable with GitHub, by the way. It's the single used repository here at Jadu. So we have like GitHub Enterprise that manages all very internal source code management, but WeJot runs on GitHub. The new Q case management system runs on GitHub. So it's the single way. And if you guys do develop something and put it up on JaduDev, it is that kind of social coding kind of environment. So hopefully it becomes increasingly used and useful. Maybe we can embed that into the JaduDev website somehow as well. Just one more thing very quickly, marketplace.jadu.net. So in those occasions where you think, wow, what we've made here is really valuable and we've sunk a lot of hours into it and actually we'd like to sell it, we can be the channel for that in distributing it to other customers. Or even if you want to give it away for free and you want us to link, we can sort of appize it on this website and link it off to a GitHub repository so people can download it if it's available for free. So for example, Jeremy, if you've made a series of widgets or a widget that allows you to connect all your social networks, and you decide that you either want to sell that or give it away or share it in some way, we can promote that here on Marketplace, and then we can send a newsletter or a bulletin to the entire customer base to see and download and contribute back as well. So this is a good channel, a nicely styled kind of App Store channel where we can start promoting things too. There is a section on this site for developers, and we want to actively encourage you to be able to sell your own stuff if you want to. We can put that stuff through code reviews and feedback as well. So that's an area where we're encouraging developers to join in. Okay. So I just want to cover a few things without sort of getting boring. Many of you have different components of the Jadu platform. Some of you have CMS. Some of you lucky folks have CMS and XFP. And if you're really lucky, you'll have CMS, XFP, and WeJot as well, which kind of covers the full Jadu platform. The integration and extensibility frameworks in there, and some of the terminology that we use and will be using from now on in the presentation, I guess you're all very acquainted now with widgets and what they do and how powerful they are. There is also snippets and modules as well. A module is like the directories module or the publishing module or the marketing module. You can actually build your own. And one of our universities in the UK, Leeds University, have built their own course finder module, for example. And they actually built it in 2 parts. They built a module for the CMS, which they then use to manage, well, it kind of connects to Banner, pulls out course information, and then publishes that in a beautiful way, but through a Jadu publishing workflow. But it also is covered under their MyJadu API. They've extended their MyJadu API to provide a REST interface to all the course content. So it's kind of like open data, which they can reuse in mobile apps or whatever frameworks they use for mobility. So there's also XFP. You have integrated components, custom actions, snippets and modules as well. And then finally for Weejot you have app templates where you can actually build pretty much anything you want in HTML5 and JavaScript and deliver mobile applications as well. So hopefully everyone is comfortable with those, the terms that we're going to start using in this discussion going forward. Okay, so I'm going to try and hand over to Andy. Is this a good time, or do you want me to carry on?
We can do. I'm just thinking though, maybe we keep on yours because it might be we might have to hand over to David if he wants to show a bit of the system, if he wants to walk around a bit after I've given a quick introduction to it.
Yeah, that would be good, and maybe we could just use these slides to kind of explain the vision behind what Dickinson have delivered, and how that's been achieved.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, pipe up at any point, David, if you want to correct anything that I discuss. But this was actually a diagram that I think that you guys built and put on your public website at the time to explain the vision that you guys had, which was to replace your Ektron CMS, your Boopsy mobile product, and your Luminous 4, I believe it was at the time, platform with just one single platform and single experience is the kind of coinage that has been put on that. If you just
that's correct, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much the same there, so we can just skip over that slide. So this was the Luminous 4 implementation that you had live previously, and I guess it sounds like pretty much everyone on the call is either a past or current Luminous user, so you'll all be pretty familiar with that interface. So I won't dwell on that too much. So move.
Wayne State's not though. They're on homegrown.
Homegrown. Okay. Thanks for that, John. So yeah, if we move forward there, then I guess when you guys were in the transitionary period, David, you put up this great kind of login introduction page for those students that were looking to try the new gateway portal, and you had your traditional gateway portal down there in that kind of left-hand navigation.
Yes, we did a soft rollout, so both systems were available at the same time for about a month.
Yeah. So if we just move forward, Suraj. So I've just kind of zoomed in on a few of these screens that you put there, just to set the scene about some of the interfaces that have been put onto the Dickinson site these days. So when an unlogged in user comes to the site, we can see that login prompt at the very bottom in the footer there. And then we've done the CAS integration on your implementation. So once the user has signed in, we can see Hello David there. And then we've got a little kind of hover box to promote the different applications that this user has access to. That's correct so far, yeah, David?
So it kind of gives you a single sign-in, welcomes you with a nice hello, and then gives you that little pop-up of apps that is available to you.
That's right.
And oh, sorry, Andy, but yeah, I'm happy to show this in action if we can figure out how to share my screen. I'm just not entirely sure how to.
Yeah, this was a contingency plan.
Do you want me to share my screen with you now, David? If I can.
Yeah, if you can give him control, you can give me, or
change presenting.
Okay, you ready?
go ahead, Raj. Let's see what happens. Oh, yeah, that looks like my screen. Okay, is anybody else seeing my screen?
We are.
There we go, yep.
Okay, so everyone's seeing that, so let me switch here. Okay, so you're seeing right now our site, and this was our new design that we put in place last February. So this is the public site. We have largely one template for the entire site. We do have a few what I'll call semi-autonomous organizations that have modified versions of the template. But one of our goals was to get our public site and our private site, our portal, intranet, whatever you want to call it, all in one system, both for cost savings and for ease of navigation so that we can go back and forth between a lot of the same content, whether you're logged in or not. So if you come to our site, down at the bottom, you'll see that you can log into, we refer to our portal as a gateway, largely because of some symbolic gateways on campus. If I log in, we're going to log in. We have CAS, Central Authentication System, for most of our systems on campus. So this allows us single sign-on. Sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. So this will take a second here. It takes us a few seconds because actually a lot's going on here. It's not only logging in via CAS, it's looking at another intermediary application that we have that does sign-in interrupt. So if we need to get students to sign some sort of acknowledgement, electronically sign some sort of acknowledgement, or put something in front of them before they can log into the system, that goes out and checks and presents them with a form or information before they can get in. And then, of course, now we're in our portal system. Normally, this is not quite so big if you're not me, but I'm special. So this is our home portal page. These are all home pages at this point. When we initially consulted with Andy and Siraj and company, what we did in Luminous, because we mostly hated Luminous, was everything was iframes with content pulled from custom-coded Cold Fusion. And our initial conception was we just pull that stuff into Jadu as frames. Due to some complications with the way browsers are starting to be more strict about passing information and security back and forth between iframes, we moved away from that model and basically rebuilt a lot of this stuff as Jadu widgets, more native widgets. So at the top, you can see all of the various applications, other software and things you can get to from our portal. As you saw in Siraj and Andy's screenshots, we also, regardless of where you are on the site, have a nice pop-up menu that will get you back to any of those. So I can be anywhere in the site, and once I'm logged in, still get back to either the gateway or to any of these other applications, email, Moodle for our learning management system, Banner self-service. If I'm a Jadu editor, I can get to the Jadu administrative page and edit content straight from here. So because we wanted kind of the same functionality in some ways as Luminous, we requested that access control be placed at almost 3 levels. We can place it around an entire home page. So, for instance, the employees page or the students page may only be accessible to an employee. And if I click on this page and I'm not an employee, it's going to tell me I don't have permission and not let me in. In addition, each of the widgets has access control around them. So, for instance, this Dean's Conference Fund is actually one that only faculty should be seeing. That's why I get an error, because the Dean doesn't give me any slush funds. But if I were a faculty member, I would have a balance there, and normally only they would see that. So around individual widgets, we have additional access control. Finally, in the menuing system over here, these items are access controlled, so if I'm not an employee, I don't even see the employee link there. So that's what we kind of laid out with Jadu as our vision, and it's how we've implemented it right now. One thing I'll say that we have on our radar going forward is, so far we've got a pretty consolidated portal in the same sense that Luminous was a system and it had all the portal pages kind of linked together. It was just all there, self-contained. Right now our portal pages are all kind of designed to work as a portal, one section of the website. But we have various offices on campus that want to have private pages, so access-controlled pages. For instance, our finance office wants to have a page off its site, not off the gateway menu, that would allow various budget officers to see certain things. So we're going to use the access-controlled home pages to provide that, but the items will be on their menu, not here. It'll be on their department menu. So it gives us the ability to actually distribute this private access-controlled content that we didn't have with Luminous. And that's one of the key benefits of having our CMS also be our portal software. In terms of the widgets we have here, I may have already said this, but Andy and company delivered to us an initial widget that was access controlled, and it largely checked individual roles and then allowed or disallowed an iframe to be populated, because that was our original conception. As we moved forward, the code that they provided was so nicely packaged that I was able to build here a couple different access control widgets. One of the key ones we use both as an access control widget and as a public widget is a widget that takes XML data pulled from any other back-end system, marries it with an XSL style sheet to display on the web. So probably 80% of what we're pulling in as widgets is being done this way. We also took the basic content widget that is delivered from Jadu and placed access controls around it so that we can have an access controlled with basic HTML content widget. The reality is we could build an access controlled anything at this point. It's just a matter of what we decide we need. Going forward, I'm sorry, somebody have a question?
Yeah, David, this is Charles Sanson from Fordham. I'm interested in where the roles are. I mean, you're exposing the roles in your cast, I presume.
No. We're pushing the roles. Everyone has there's a custom table in Jadu. We push the roles nightly from Banner. And so Jadu is accessing those in a custom table in its own MySQL database along with all the other data. So each user has in the users table, and then there's a custom roles table, and then a custom table to assign roles to users.
Very, very interesting approach. Hadn't thought of that.
It largely mirrored our approach with Luminous. Yeah, Andy could probably detail what they did there with the tables as much as we could since he built them. But it's proven very useful. I'll also say that for this that we've built out a custom table, and the code behind this looks at that table, so I can drop in new applications and new icons without having to refresh code or anything. It's all just in the database. It's all just entries in the database. So that makes that really handy as well. I think I mentioned earlier, we have some stuff in here for alumni, but it's pretty rudimentary. Our alumni office and advancement office is going through a complete reconceptualization of what they want to have on their web for alumni, and part of that will be re-examining what we provide via the portal for alumni. So that will change. That's kind of our next big portal project. And also the kind of distributed private pages that are linked to departments, menus on the web, not to the gateway menu per se. We're also looking at, we've just put in XFP, the forms, the professional forms. Advancement's probably going to be our first office that uses that in its full capabilities for things like branching questions and that kind of fun stuff. Mike here he informed me as of this morning on his own, been toying around and has managed to put access control functionality around XFP forms, which is where we're going to go for another big project. We have about 1,000,000,001 student forms, particularly for things like incoming students that they need to complete. And we're going to be migrating all of those from our homegrown system for that to XFP, but we needed to have access control around them first. So that's going to be one of our next projects that has to be in place by May. That'll give us the ability to kind of drop that right into our portal. I'm trying to think. The other thing we're looking at right now is John Houston kind of came to us with this idea, and we've been looking at Knowledge Web, which is a document management system that we use here, to take the forms produced by XFP that we may generate as PDF or whatever and push them straight into Knowledge, where our business offices already have workflows in place for managing those, whether it be for signing off on things or redirecting to various offices, or just simply for having in a student or employee file. So we're at the very early stages of that, and we're working on kind of finalizing with Jadu plans for how to move forward with that. I don't know, Andy or Suraj, if you had other thoughts on what you might like me to show. That's kind of very briefly, or if anybody else has any questions about anything you see there, happy to explain. I'm sorry, Andy?
You had mentioned an intermediate app that checks for any required forms on login. Is that part of Jadu as well, or is that something external?
Nope, that's homegrown. Mike did that for us. It sits between CAS and whatever target application you're going to, and basically once you're authenticated, it hands off to that, and it checks in our database and see if you have any outstanding kind of, for instance, our acceptable use policy for computer and network use. Every new employee and new student has to complete that before we even let them get into our system. So first time they log in, they'll hit CAS, they log in, that authenticates them against our Active Directory, and then says, oh wait, I'm not sending you to any system until you've checked that you've read this and agree that we can boot you if you do all kinds of nasty things on our network. And if you agree to that, then it'll hand you off to the target application. So that's a homegrown piece that we employed a very similar piece with Luminous, and it just sits between the two applications.
Right. I have a very similar piece in Luminous which I have to replace. So I guess I will hopefully be able to contact you offline. We can talk about this.
Yeah, sure. We'll be happy to talk. I will see. Mike can certainly give you details.
We use a separate application called JaduDev for password management, like resetting recovery questions, and we just built it off an extension off of that.
Sorry, what?
It's PWM, password management, and that sits between CAS and the gateway, or CAS and Jadu, and we just built an extension off of that that processes the interrupts.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. You think I can manage that, huh? Let's see here. I'm passing it. Am I passing it to Andy or Suraj? I'll give keyboard and mouse.
Oh wait, yes, our change presenter.
Let's change presenter.
Yep. Also, I think if you right-click Andy's name in the go to meeting. There you go.
It looks like maybe you're on.
I got a quick question. This is Jeremy at Wayne State. In your scenario, you said it happened nightly that you updated roles and updated permissions, and it was a custom table in Jadu, correct?
Yes.
How do you handle someone who needs rights to a particular part of the system, and they need it right now? Do you have like a script you can run manually that pushes those forward, or?
Of course, but we generally tell them to go bug off for a while.
How does that actually work for you?
We can push that, obviously, and for the purposes of, say, letting someone in to test or see something temporarily, we can always just manually update, insert a row into the table to allow them that role.
Was there a particular advantage to that method rather than just pulling the roles directly out of whatever CAS system you're using?
Our CAS system doesn't contain our roles.
Oh, okay. All right, that would make sense then.
Our roles are all contained within Banner. They're all managed and contained within Banner.
Okay.
Okay, I'm actually going to touch briefly on that just now. So what I thought I would quickly do was just go through 5 of the key developments that Jadu initially undertook with Dickinson to kind of put the foundations in place for all of the great stuff that David's shown you. So the key 5 things were initially the CAS adapter, the CAS integration for that sign-on piece. There was the synchronization of the Banner user roles, as you've just mentioned there. A rule sets capability, which I've got a screenshot I'll show you shortly. The custom iframe homepage widget, which David's already pointed out, we did initially, but he's since coded up his own widgets using XML and XSL, so that's become a bit redundant now. And then the role-based ACL for the information architecture pages and the home pages. So I've just got one slide on each of those. Just wanted to keep it pretty high level, but feel free to ask questions. So the initial part was the CAS authentication piece, shown in the green squares here. So effectively, with Jadu, one of the things that wasn't on the extensibility points earlier, the slide, is you can build out your own authentication services to authenticate against a different back office system as a user signs in. So we built a custom authentication service just down here, which we called the Jadu CAS authentication service, which just used the PHP CAS open source library to communicate with the already existing CAS service that Dickinson already had in place. So they'd already done a lot of the groundwork there, and we were just creating a custom adapter that we needed to place on the infrastructure, on the Jadu implementation, so that that authentication could flow through the existing CAS service. On top of that, we then had to understand those user roles. And as David pointed out, they are stored in Banner at Dickinson. So we worked with Mike, where Mike was good to generate a PL SQL query a function within Banner, so that it would export XML and push that in, I think it was blocks of 500 user details, into a script that we had written, a custom script, which would take that data and then place it locally within Jadu. So here we had the identifier for the user and any roles that they had assigned next to them, and that was all available within Jadu locally, so that we weren't having to communicate with Banner directly as a user signed in or as they moved through pages to reduce network traffic effectively. Okay. And so because now we know who a user is because they've signed in and we know their roles, we then built out a custom control center page and a set of database tables that we called access control rule sets here. whereby it gives Dickinson the freedom to set up any kind of mix of user roles or identifiers to prevent users from seeing content or promote content to the right users. So in this particular example here, we've got the alumni rule set, where it's saying if the user role is of DC Dickinson College _ alumni, as has come from Banner, then this rule would take effect effectively. And then you can also have that across multiple, so that there's a match all, or it could match just one of the sub rules that you may apply there. So you can go quite granular with that. David, is there anything worth mentioning on that in terms of how that's worked out for you? Has that been flexible enough to meet all of your needs?
Yeah, we've. I said on a side note there because it occurred to Mike and I that perhaps we're a bit excessive with the number of roles that we actually manage, and maybe that's why we manage them from Banner rather than in CAS or in Active Directory, where our Active Directory manager would kill us if we kept asking for updates. So we probably have about 50 different distinct roles that we use. And then what's nice about the rule sets as opposed to the roles is that I can aggregate those in any number of varieties. And it's proven to be very flexible. We haven't had I don't think we've requested any change or enhancement to that functionality since we started working with it.
Great. Okay, so the rule sets gives us then the basics for then building on top of that the access control features and the display features. So the first one that David mentioned was the custom widget that we built to render an iframe. And the original thinking behind that was so that the team at Dickinson didn't have to recode all of those legacy Cold Fusion scripts and would just be able to point to those files and bring in that same code with a kind of a minimal transition, I suppose. But then, as David pointed out, he took it on upon himself to build out the XML and XSL widget a bit further. But here you can see the principle was you put a widget title in, a URL, and then you could apply those different rule sets to say, only make this widget appear if the user's roles meet these particular rule sets. So that's how Dickinson were able to control an individual widget on any home page and whether it rendered or not. So then on top of that, I've just put one of the screens here for showing the information architecture down the left as is defined in the category builder. And then once you click on one of those categories, you can then apply those rule sets that you've defined earlier to say that this category should only be accessible if the user meets this rule set. So this, again, was a custom page that we built in for Dickinson's particular needs. And the view moving forward is that we want to build this into the platform as standard features moving forward, so that then this could be used for the other users on the call to build out this portal functionality in the same way that Dickinson have applied it here. Is there any questions on those five key developments that you'd like me to go through at this point?
When can we get those?
You like those, do you?
Yes, I do.
I guess we're just waiting for an invite to come over to New York.
All right, it's in the mail.
Excellent.
So, Andy, you may as well just leave it on your computer now, I guess,
sure.
To save any. So, I don't know what the next slide is. Okay, yeah. So, if you want to see the business rationale behind this, and I hope you don't mind me suggesting that everyone watch this, David, hopefully to save you from having to tell this story 7 or 8 times over. There is a 18-minute video that the excellent team at Dickinson very kindly agreed to make at the URL in this slide. By the way, this slide deck is going to get shared on the JaduDev website, so there'll be a link to it from there as well. And that if you have any business users inside your institutions and they want to understand sort of the softer explanation, perhaps the non-technical explanation of what the vision was behind what Dickinson have made, this video is a really great 18 minutes of how to revolutionize your campus digitally and not have 3 or 4 different systems. So web CMS, portal, mobile, intranet are actually all delivered from the same product and platform with the same, importantly, the same user experience. And I think David and the team at Dickinson do a really nice job of explaining why that's important for the user. So for the prospective students, for the students, and then for once they graduate and become alumni, it's the same place they go to, which familiarity and also a consistent user experience is really important. So we can skip that one, Andy, I think, unless you want to talk about it.
This one.
Yeah.
So if people are keen, I was going to show a quick demonstration of what we've done with perceptive content, or Image Now, as some people will know it, and the principles that will apply in knowledge web integration that we'll be doing at Dickinson.
So this could be any document management system, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I know Fordham are using a different system. Charles, I think you guys are using Highland on Base. I know.
That's correct.
Yep, and I know Tom at Butler, they're using BDMS. So it's really the principles we want to talk about, and less the specifics. Yeah.
And I might give a little more context too, and why is Jadu targeting content or document imaging systems as a valuable integration between our CMS and that back office system. And as customers start to use, transition more from paper-based forms and things that get mailed in and then scanned into a document imaging system that universities and colleges have invested lots of money into, as you start to transition those paper forms into more electronic transactions, you don't want those electronic transactions all sitting in a different system and diluting the investments that you've made in those document imaging systems. A lot of people have invested a lot of time, not just in the imaging system, but also the workflows that are associated with scanning a document or importing an electronic document into that and then passing it through a process. So as Suraj and Andy have made the comment, the functionality that we've been able to do with the partnership we have with Perceptive, which, by the way, Perceptive, I should mention, also owns, they acquire the company Knowledge, so Perceptive also owns the Knowledge Web product set now that Dickinson's using. But this will give you a way to properly plan more of that digital transformation and online transactions from paper-based transactions, so that you can still rely on those core back office systems such as document imaging systems. So with that, I'll let Andy continue along the demonstration.
Sure. Okay. So I'll just give you a very quick 2 minutes on what it is we've done, and then we'll go more into how we've done it, so that then you can see how that might be applied to the different document management systems that you might have. So here we're just going to quickly see the sign-in piece. So this is our own CAS implementation here. So I'm just going to sign in as a student, in this case Sally Young, and I'm going to go to my student portal page. So here we can see that we're signed in as Sally, and what we've got here is a custom widget that we've built that's going to pull documents out of the chosen document management system. In this case, we're pulling out the views as they are defined directly in the document management system as well. So certainly we've seen that capability with Perceptive software, and we've seen that with Knowledge Web as well. So basically we've used that identifier from when the user has signed in to look up key index values against the document in that document store. And the user can now download that file as well to their local drive, and see maybe the current status of that document is maybe displayed in this view as well. Now, something else we've done in terms of the forms area is allow form data to be submitted into the document management system as well. So here we've got the Xforms Pro product, and I'm just very quickly going to go through and fill in some details here. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with XFP and the standard features it has, so I won't talk much about that. But I'm just going to submit this form. And one of the standard features of XFP is the generation of a PDF. So here, once I've submitted that online form, I can view my PDF with my online form data presented within it. So what we thought would be great is if we could push that to the document management system or to any workflows within that document management system. So if I just come over here now and just connect to, in this case, perceptive content, there's a workflow configured here for transcript requests. There's a transcript request inbox here.
So this is the perceptive content document management system you're actually looking at now?
That's right, yeah.
And these are drawers inside the document management system?
That's correct. This is a workflow here. And here we can see there's a new file just arrived. It's been in the queue for 41 seconds. And if I open that up, we've got, hopefully when that displays, the PDF displayed that we had generated and pushed in with the data within it. And over here on the right, we can see document keys. So the user ID, the name, and the date it came in and what channel they used to fill in that online form in this particular case. But we've made that entirely configurable. So the building blocks that we've used to enable that come in. I'll show you here in this the control center here. I'm just going to check I'm still logged in. So on that, one of the very early slides that Suraj showed, the different extension points of the different products. Here in the Actions tab, we've added a perceptive content action specifically. So as a developer, you can extend XFP to add your own actions, and we've just happened to have built one specifically perceptive content. So here it could be equally a Highland on-base action. So here, once that's enabled for this particular student transcript request form, I can go into that tab and then configure the individual bits of data for how this data gets from Jadu into the document management. So behind the scenes here, we've written a custom class which is going to handle the interaction with that system's API. So in this case, we're talking to the integration server from Perceptive, and it has various different endpoints. It's a RESTful API to understand the different drawers within that document management system, the different workflows that are available, and the different document types. So as a user goes into that document management system and administers it, they can add new types, new workflows, new drawers, and they automatically appear for the user to configure in this action. So equally, that would just work with your own document management system as you develop those adapters out.
So Andy, you've scripted a custom XFP action in PHP.
Yep.
And you've used the integration server, which is the perceptive name of the web services that interface with the document management system.
That's correct. So any changes that are made there automatically appear here for the editor to apply to their particular form. So that's how we've enabled a form to be submitted into a document management. And then there's also the widgets that then display out that form data, which I suppose is the more relevant thing when we're talking about portals specifically in access to those documents. So over here we've got we've added a perceptive content view documents widget, which we've got a spanner here to click and configure. And what I'll do just while that's loading is show you over here in the management interface. Just close that down.
So this is back into perceptive content document management system.
That's correct, yeah. Let's just trying to load. It's not, for some reason it's not loading. But essentially we've built these widget settings to allow you, the administrator, to define what data is going to be pulled out of the document management system and be available to the end user once they have signed in and authenticated.
So this is a list of all the drawers,
Yeah.
some of which might be private, some of which might be public.
Yeah. And we've built this generically enough so that it could be used for only signed in users, or it could be for public use, and maybe it's just a list of corporate policies.
Yeah. HR policies,
HR
maybe.
policies,
Yeah.
something like that. So then the faculties, or they only have to manage it in the document management system, and they don't have to worry about updating the website or the portal with specific links once any of those policies change. So they were the two key building blocks to some of the integration we've done there, and would equally apply from what we've seen to Knowledge Web and to OnBase or any other document management system.
So it's basically just a developer needs to have the web services at hand.
Yeah.
In Perceptive's case, it's integration server. They need to be able to script a widget using those web services.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to script an XForms action using those web services. And they need to be able to ensure that their entire system is talking authentication-wise, is talking through something like CAS.
Yeah, effectively. They're the fundamental building blocks.
Yeah.
Any questions on what you've seen there in terms of document management integration?
So you're talking about CAS for authentication, but the authorization resides, again, are those custom tables needed on the Jadu side?
In this specific case, no. We've just taken the user identifier, and then all the documents within the document management system are indexed against that user identifier. So if this widget was configured to see a particular view, it would look for that user identifier and only present those that were relevant to the user back to them.
So that's the user identifier inside the document management system, which is the user identifier for every record.
That's right. So here we're defining which document key holds that student identifier maybe that we're going to look up for.
Yeah, exactly how this is done could very well differ depending on which document imaging system is in place. This just happened to be the most makes sense way for how Perceptive indexes their content. It was an easy way to make sure that when Sally logs in, she only sees Sally's documents, but there may be a different way based on how OnBase stores and indexes their documents, or even provides access to user information.
Okay.
So this is kind of approaching it from a slightly different angle, isn't it? This is now using Banner to present content and data that's actually in Banner.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So here we've just got a video. I'll just click it and get it going. I'll just click play here. So the principle here is that the student's already authenticated, and I'm just going to pause that just to make sure you can all see the screen. But what we've done is we've used the Banner Mobile Connect API in this case. It may be a slightly out-of-date version. We don't have direct access to a Banner instance at the moment, so this is quite an old example. But we've used the Banner Mobile Connect REST API to pull out a student's course information and grade information. So we're showing here a calendar view of any courses that they have, and here we've built a separate widget which is using the grades data endpoint within their API to list for each course that they're enrolled upon the description of that course, the instructor, their current credit rating, and their current grade. But that's the general principle. We're just, again, using widgets to interact with a web service API to pull relevant data into the home page for that student. We've also, in this example, built in integration to the form so that we've got what we called integrated components that we mentioned earlier. So here as the student comes to the drop course form, there's a drop down that shows the different courses that are to be dropped. So we've actually pulled out the list of their courses from that banner API again. So they'll only be offered choices that are relevant to the specific user that is accessing the form at the current time.
So student signs into website. Website is then authenticating against banner, showing student then starts a form. In this case, it's a course application form.
A drop course form.
To drop a course.
Yeah.
They then start, their user details are already pre-filled because we know who they are.
That's right.
And then when they select that drop list, all the options in that list are the courses that they're taking, and one of which they're going to be dropping.
That's correct. Yeah. Okay, so what the video then is going to show is filling in the final steps of that form and submitting it. Now what we also did is, which we'll show in a second, is we pushed this as a note against the student account in Banner, again using one of the endpoints. So I'm just going to flick over to another tab here. Here we can see the status of the authentication, the user identifier, and here it's pulled out the roles as a student in this case. I've got another endpoint here which is showing for that particular student the current term that they're enrolled upon and their different grades. So this was the endpoint that we were using for that first widget I showed you that was showing their grades. And then here we're showing a list of comments that have been made against this student record directly in Banner. And actually what you can see is previous form submissions here and bits of data that we've posted it directly into Banner. And what I'm going to do is just flick back to that other tab and actually submit that form. So again, this was developed as a custom action so that when the form was submitted, it's posted to that Banner API. And if I just refresh this page here, we'll see a fifth record now appears, which was that form submission going straight into Banner. So again, it's just about using widgets and form actions to pull and push data against a different system. In this case, it's the student management system with Banner. And this is just showing a few of those different screens, what it looked like now in Banner, the fact that that form had been submitted against as a comment. And if we've got another screen that will show you those different courses that that current student was enrolled upon. So that's all I really wanted to show in terms of Banner and some of the examples, proof of concepts that we've done there.
Yeah. So is there any questions on, I mean, there's two examples there of how you can use back office systems to enable that personalized experience on the website. So I guess really just opening up for questions and discussion, because what we've shown you, although kind of a bit laggy over the internet and maybe not so coherent, are two really powerful ways of enabling back office data to be surfaced to the end user, to the student, to the parent, to the teaching faculty, the administrative staff. You can pretty much make an audience type of anybody using the power of CAS for authentication. The web services that are now fairly commonplace from vendors like Ellucian and Perceptive and PeopleSoft and others. Really interested in whether that starts to turn on any light bulbs in your heads as developers, really. So sort of open for questions.
Maybe while people are waiting to let their creative juices flow, a couple of house cleaning things, just a question more or less. If you're trying to set up or sign up an account in the developer website, there's a create new account link in there, and I'll send a follow-up email with a link to those things so everybody has them. But that will generate an email. I think John Wheat, you'll get that email directly, right? or do they need to email you first to get the account key so that when they create a new account, they can do that?
I actually just went through the process while we were on the phone, and he sent me an email. I did the get a key email to him, and he shot me back the key, and I got an account created. It only took about 5-10 minutes.
Raj, this is David at Dickinson. One possible topic for next time that we'd like to hear more about is Jadu's roadmap and timetable for integrating this kind of portal technology into the core code, and what it means for those of us who may already have moved forward. I know John at Messiah will be in that position, as will we, and perhaps some of these other folks. So we'd kind of like to see something more formal about the roadmap there.
Absolutely, David. I think we need to have some internal conversation with the Stellar team about firstly giving them the knowledge of your implementation. We need to do a little bit of design, how this is going to go in, and then work with you about how we backport in the next release. Now, just as a reminder, the Jadu CMS is now released every 2 weeks. We call that a fortnight here in the UK, so if we ever mention that word, at least you know what it means now. So we release fortnightly or every 2 weeks, and we want to make sure that you're getting the best value. If you log into the support site, you'll see that the sort of standard globally rolled out roadmaps are here available to everybody. We're happy to talk through these at the next developer meeting if you want us to. There is a little bit of an explanation underneath. We are kind of already executing on this. So last year the big thing was that we moved from Subversion to Git, and that was the big sort of code infrastructure change that it took a while. It took a long while to make all of that happen. We then consolidated on 2 platforms, which also took a while, and we're kind of part way across this the delivery of these features. And they're not necessarily consecutive. It really kind of depends on the priorities of the Stellar team. But the good news is that you don't have to wait a year for a major release anymore. These things will be released in 2 weekly sprints, and have been so far. So I think I said earlier that we're on release 38 now, with release 39, I think it is, coming next. You should be, if you watch our Twitter account, you'll get updates there, but we'll now start posting on the JaduDev site as well. And let's put that down as an action, that the Stellar team will also log into the JaduDev site and give you heads up on where you can download the latest patches and stuff. We'll make sure that for you, David, certainly for Dickinson, that you're fully involved in the merging of what becomes standard and what is custom. We'll make sure we work with you on that.
Yeah, and Charles, to your point and your question about, when can you get access to some of these things, if you want to send me a follow-up email, and we can start a discussion, because depending on what time frame you're on, because I think one of the things that I gathered from this call today was that you might be looking at a sooner timeline than I had thought you were, as far as portal evaluation and things like that. So if you want to send me a separate email and we can start a conversation, I get Andy involved, and maybe we need to get some of that to you sooner than it might just roll out. So let me know and we can have that conversation, so we understand what your timelines are too.
So guys, I'll just say the final thank you. If just to be a bit more lively, guys, if you don't mind, after 3 saying thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're British. This is really hard for us. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to end the call now, but I will mix this into a video and post it on the JaduDev website.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you all soon.